ability. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes, with each speaker allotted 3 minutes. You cannot donate time to other speakers or speak more than once per meeting. Time remains. This period is for the board to listen, not to engage in dialogue. The board will not respond to comments, questions, or challenges during the comment period, and silence should not be interpreted as agreement or disagreement. However, the board chair may ask for clarifications. District staff may follow up with individuals after the meeting. Please be mindful of the impact of your words. Each speaker is responsible for their own statements, not the district. Certain remarks could violate privacy laws or be considered defamatory. If you are unsure about the legal implications of your comments, we recommend seeking legal advice. In closing, we ask that everyone help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks and sounds like. Thank you for being here and for your contributions. Okay, so minutes. We need a motion for approval of the regular school board meeting minutes for Thursday, November 21st, 2024.
Move for approval of the regular school board meeting minutes for Thursday, November 21st, 2024.
Okay. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We do have a public comment on agenda items. Ben would like to speak on 4C, so we're talking on the interlocals, is that correct? Okay.
Yep. So I just had a question about that. I've seen the district's finances. I understand that we're still currently in the negative. I don't know that this justifies spending an additional, at least $7,500 is what I read, but I don't know if there's additional costs to that. But the cost associated with that could be a month's salary for one of our staff members. So I don't know that it's justifiable to spend that kind of money if we're already in the negative, if that's something that we can prolong and possibly wait on, and maybe get ourselves in a better financial situation by cutting costs elsewhere before we make a move to in places that might not be necessary at the moment.
Okay, I do need a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Just one question about that, and I don't think so I saw this, Stephanie Delpass is leaving both of our positions as coaching positions. And I just wanted to ever do exit interviews and find out why someone why she is, or someone like she is, has to move on. I know everybody.
Oh, yes, and I wouldn't share it.
Yeah.
Public.
It's personal.
Usually there's no secrets.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you. So then I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Start with enrollment. We are slowly declining in enrollment. Not a lot. I mean, we're still over budget, but obviously, at this time, the elementary has 475 students. There's the 0.44 because we have a student that only comes partial day, and then of course the kids that go to Skill Center are only a 0.36 FTE as well. So transitional kindergarten hanging in there, 29. So that's really good. And for running start, we have 8.60, and open doors at 8. And that might increase due to some of the kids, I don't know, that, and we were getting near to the end of the first semester, so we'll see what things look like there. Under payroll. So for the month of November, our payroll was $802,286. That's a little down from the year before at $805,221. next couple of months, we'll have more grant claims coming in, but at this time, our current revenue is at $679,653. We did have some accruals for our accounts receivables and also for the Carl Perkins that came in late. Expenditures are $30,451. You'll see a negative on that, -7.4, because that was part of the, got back on the workplace program on our accounts receivable, so that's why that's a negative. And then the for transportation. And then for our revenue as of November, our year-to-date is $679,653. Our year-to-date, we're still up $165,473 overall. Received 23.85% of our revenue compared to expenditures are, like I said, $1,030,451, and year-to-date difference for that is we're actually up, like we've spent too much, $74,690. Percentage for that is 25.64%. And as far as ASB goes, once again, the revenue was just a little bit short, $11,003, and then the expenditure is $11,560. That's at $2,057,951.36. And I think this is where I have to turn this. So, see, you know, during getting all the taxes, but we're back down. So, so at this point, overall this year, we've used $448,640 of our fund balance. Any questions? You had someone on the
No, just related
expenditures.
tonight, we were talking about you're not optimistic.
We're hoping to fill the teacher one, but the para one, we've had a couple open and they've had it filled, yeah.
That's-
So the teacher one is pretty new as of last week. Yeah, so we're a little bit more optimistic about that, but the para ones, we're not getting on.
that's-
Copy of Jordan's report, okay. And then I guess what was your report after that?
This is what happened with Jade too, when you have a student rep that's also an athlete.
Yeah.
They missed Thursday night.
Yeah, because Jay's
Short
only in
meetings.
softball.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So Jordan says this is her writing,
You want to English it?
not yet, just, so the winter assembly was yesterday, December 18th. They'll be introducing winter sports players and celebrating winter break. It was fun. Like crazy stuff. They did crazy stuff. Jennifer Henderson is running all those. She's a perfect person. Yeah. With Brianna Coggins is the ASB president, and she's doing a great job also. So they had games, they had various competitions. The seniors like to come up to tell how they're winning. They won homecoming as well, all the competitions, so that's good. And then this whole week has been Spirit Week. Each day is a different dress-up day. I'd say equal staff and students at the high school level are participating. It's always, yeah, anyway. People apparently have closets full of Christmas dress-up stuff, yeah. Winter sports are going well. Women and men's basketball are 2-1 for the first 2 weeks of the season, and wrestling is gaining a lot of popularity in the school, having 18 wrestlers. Yeah. Fundraisers cheered, did their holiday candy grams. They delivered those yesterday. We spent about 3 weeks in the hall selling those. And then sophomores are planning a Tolo, but they're still figuring out the date, time, place, and theme. Seniors in their own free time decorate the halls for winter, spreading the cheer and making the halls happy for all the students to share, she says. So, Okay, yes, yes. So a few weeks ago, we did the webinar with the Skagit County Soups, and Arthur and Mike were able to sit in. They weren't able to talk, but they were, so it was the Skagit County Soups and the legislative representatives, and it was quite well attended, I'd say, by state representatives. And the Skagit County superintendents have been the only group that kind of pulled together to do a group presentation on our needs. There's a write-up in Skagit Herald, right, and I think Cascadia, is that, I don't know where that comes out of, Cascadia Herald or something. Basically, the story is, look, we're underfunded. And so what they presented is a combination of all the districts, the Skagit County districts put together. So for transportation, countywide, state funding is 1.4 million less than expenditures. And this is just the 23-24 numbers. Special education, underfunded by 8.6 million. When we talk about MSOCs, materials, supplies, operational costs, it's lumped. So in the RCWs, all of that, it's always lumped together as MSOCs, but we wanted to break them out into the biggest bucket, so utilities and insurance, because as you know, like our insurance rates are skyrocketing, utilities are skyrocketing. So instead of it lumped together, we broke it out. So 23-24, underfunded by 4.3 for just utilities and insurance for our school districts. And materials and supplies, then 4.9 million. So that's all the Skagit County schools. So concrete specifically, we fed our numbers to them and they put it together. But I thought you should see our numbers. So utilities insurance, oh, I guess I should put this in the same order they did, but we'll do this. Utilities insurance, last year we were funded $209,000 and we paid out $528,000. Materials and supplies, I don't have my numbers on here. Or you could see, we got paid less. Materials and supplies you can control the best, right? You could say, we're just not buying curriculum this year. But it's hard to say we're not paying for copier expenses. There's a lot that goes into this, but curriculum can be a very large purchase. Granite Falls, for example, you're not getting curriculum there. I think they're at a 28.28% fund balance or something like that. So, but we are under there. Transportation, our numbers are not accurate. And the reason this looks like we made more money than we spent is because we have we received money for a bus, but we haven't received the bus to pay for it. And so this is, like, we're gonna pretend this isn't true. The money is encumbered. Like, we don't have this money to play with. It is.
And as well,
It's set aside.
the
It's set
CDF
aside.
fund is like every good fund.
Yeah, you can't do anything else with it.
Yeah.
Just to be clear about that.
Our biggest gap is, of course, special education. So we received 102,000 or 1.2 million, and then we spent 2.2 million. And it's only getting worse. Like that gap in funding. So what this legislative rep conference said is, this is what they're going after, right? If we could all say the same message, which is we need MSOCs increased, transportation increased, special ed funding increased. And I don't know if you've been reading the news that the governor announced we're in a spending freeze with the state, that they're in a budget deficit. I think he said deficit wasn't the correct term, but so they were not giving us hope in the sense of, oh, you're gonna get more money for special ed, but they might do things like raise the cap. Right now, we receive extra money for a student with an IEP up to 16% of our student population. But we have 24% of our student population with IEPs, so 8% of our students, 40 students, we're not getting extra special ed funding for. That money comes out of the general fund, because we are required to provide special education services. So that's one thing they're suggesting is maybe raising that cap. They raised it from 15% to 16% this year. Okay, 2 students we got some more funding for. And then they're possibly going to change what are called the LRE, least restrictive environment. So a student who is in a self-contained room, like a life skills student, you get the most funding for because they cost the most to provide service. Then you get the next most for students that are mostly in gen ed, because they're assuming you have like a paraeducator helping the teacher or something. You get the least for a student that's pulled out into like a resource room where you're hiring a teacher, because they don't want you to do that. They want students in with gen ed. So they de-incentivize you to have resource classes. And so they're talking about changing those tiers to fund it better or differently. Anyway, there's our numbers. So as we go into the next legislative session, that's what the regional superintendents are gonna be lobbying for, is increase in special ed, transportation, and MSOCs. Because what we found, like last year, MSOCs wasn't even in the effort, and as the legislative cycle was ending, districts hopped on, like, whoa, let's try to get something for MSOCs, and we actually did get a raise in that, and it wasn't even in anybody's radar, and we managed to get it, so.
Maybe about that, all the different students from, Canton schools were talking, and I heard Anacortes, I have this idea of Anacortes is rolling in the dough, which relatively speaking they are, and they're
But
got
they're
millions of
so-
dollars of shortfalls, and they're short on all.
They're having to cut things that we don't even have. They don't have a curriculum director anymore, or whatever the. Those are things that we can't cut, because we don't have those people, if you will. So, but yeah, I mean, they're cutting just like the rest of us.
I think the most similar is LaConner, right? They're in the same boat as we are. And then I thought it was interesting, Cedro, because they talked about their geographically large district. I'm like, you want to talk about geographically large?
Yes,
As far as I know, we are still the most geographically large district in the
Transportation
entire
wise,
state,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Fire districts, everything, yeah.
So,
Men.
yeah. Anyway, it was good. It was good. I think the representatives there, they pretty much were like, we all believe in education. We'll fight the most we can, and basically don't keep your fingers crossed because the district or the state is facing its own issues.
Are you in one of the, Mitch thing down in, that's,
We should talk.
okay, good.
Okay. No recognition, no old business.
I know, I gave you a break.
I'm like, that's bizarre, no old business, okay. New business, so we have a request for approval of a $15,000 donation to the school district from Barbara Pope. So do I have a motion to accept that $15,000 donation?
Concrete School District from Parliament.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Just before, I went through, is there like a discussion about that, something?
It's pretty boilerplate. I mean,
Saying we're gonna use this test, we're gonna test this percentage of. I did look through it, I
Yeah.
got that, but.
yeah, so basically, the standard test used nationally pretty much was called the COGNAT, COGNAT or something. Anyway, that's what was used here. Paper test, very time consuming, plus it's text-based. Well, the push is, if a student can't read, I mean, you have students that have disabilities that are highly capable, right, that twice gifted. Well, you have a test like that where it requires them to read, you're not catching if they are gifted in spatial reasoning or,
Lots
art
of
or
other
something like
things,
that.
yeah.
So we switched 3 years ago to it's called NNAT, can't remember, anyway, which is all picture-based. And it's computer-based and it's done in 30 minutes. And so we're able to screen, because this is just the screener, okay? Highly capable is just like special education. It's an eligibility process. You can't just have a teacher say, oh, this student's highly capable. That's not how it works. So this form these are the tests we use, the screeners.
Yep.
This is the grades we do it. You have to do it kindergarten through third and then before the end of sixth grade. The same students should test again before the end of sixth grade. And then if they, on that screener, show a certain cognitive ability, then you get consent from the parent to do the eligibility testing, which is exactly the same testing as special education. So it's about 4 hours with the school psychologist. And then from that, we have, do they meet they have to be in the upper range. That's just one data point. Then you have to have a second data point, which is usually their state tests. But little kindergarten through second don't take state. So then you need others, so we use STAR testing data. So you have to have 2 data points showing the student is not a level 3, which is expected, but level 4, which is they exceed the standard. And then you qualify them either ELA or math. Just because somebody passes the cognitive test in general doesn't mean they're as equally bright in English as math. So that's what this report is. There's not a lot of creativity in the report. It's just saying this is how we comply with the eligibility process. And we get $15,000 a year, which pays for the protocols and the school psych. And so people say, why don't you take your high-cap students on field trips? You'd like us to do that. Why don't you have a separate class? You mean for 2 students? Because it'd be one thing if we have a group, like if we had 10 sixth graders, then we'd say that justifies a different class. But if you have one first grader, one second grader, one third, one fourth, so we do it in a pull-out. Almost like our pull-out special ed reading groups, we do a pull-out high-cap first through third group, pull-out 4th through 6th group. So this isn't some fun, like, hey, these are great programs, this is just the compliance piece.
Great.
Okay, so do I have a motion for approval of the highly capable district plan for the 2024-25 school year? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then our stuff. Need a motion for approval of resolution to invest $14.94 and $14.95. Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And then we do have one more public comment, just a public comment basically on a non-agenda item. Which we're breaking the rules because we're letting you speak again, but. Yeah,
It's Christmas.
because I didn't know that was a rule.
That you can't speak twice?
That's what it says.
You can't speak twice for public comment.
Yeah, my sure.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys all checked your emails, you guys saw the Ray appealed decision to,
Can I just remind that no personnel information can be discussed at an open meeting?
personnel information as
Like,
it.
like if you're talking about a personnel action, it can't be in a public meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is included in the appeal that I already did, I already put that in there. But, in September, I was at a board meeting and we talked about ethics and holding people responsible. We passed a motion for that in, what was it, October? I think it was October that we passed that resolution, or you guys passed that resolution. Anyway, transparency is obviously a big thing, and it's right here in policy 1815. Like we should be transparent, and in the decision that you made, there was no transparency. There was a mean, and it goes right against the laws that are in the WACs. I mean, the WAC specifically states that the complainant has the right to get that knowledge and get that information. Which I've already gone the other way of getting that information, which is a public records request, which just takes even longer and prolongs this whole situation. And it's not, I mean, that's not transparent. I shouldn't have to jump through all of these hoops in order to get this taken care of. In that, you also stated that you needed you stated that the disturbance was him playing with kids. And that's not a disturbance. The people playing with kids is not a disturbance at all. I mean, there's laws for all of this stuff. And that's the part that's, I guess, most frustrating is RCW 28.635.20, which you referenced in your appeal letter. You referenced the very first part of section 1, which says it shall be unlawful for any person to willfully disobey an order of chief administrator, officer of public school district, or an authorized designee of such administrator to leave any motor vehicle, building, grounds, or other property which is owned, operated, or controlled by the school district. But you stopped right there. You didn't state the rest of that statute, which says if the person so ordered is under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or is committing, threatens to imminently commit, or incites another to imminently commit any act which would disturb or interfere or obstruct any lawful task, function, process, or procedure of the school district, or any lawful task, function, process, or procedure of any student, official, employee, or invitee of the school. You didn't state that. You left that whole part out. And I don't understand why, if we're so big on transparency, this is a government building. These are government employees. Just because he gives an order doesn't mean that it's a lawful order. And it states very clearly in your response letter that there is no policy. Nobody's broken a policy. You can enforce policy. You can enforce law. I'm not saying that anything's wrong with enforcing policy.
Okay,
or
that is your 3 minutes. Future meetings, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be, work session will be Tuesday, January 28th at 6 p.m. here in this room. And our next regular board meeting will be Thursday, January 30th, also 2025, also in this room. I know, right? And no executive session, so the meeting is adjourned.